And we're back to learning HTML, and this time I'm going to show you how to create drag and drop elements on a website. And we're going to start with an empty website, so I'm going to create this from scratch. It's still our tutorial website right here. So I've got my IMG folder and I'm going to use this image of a computer. And let's create the basic outline. We need our doc type declaration, HTML head and body. Now let me add a style tag. We want to create a div container to drag our image into. And afterwards I'm going to show you with a second div container that we can drag it back and forth in between these two. Let me use ID selectors, so div1 and div2. And I design them using with height border. Let's get to the body. I'll add a headline and our first div container. And then the second one. Oh, I've missed the quotation marks right here. But now we can see our containers. Let me add our image. As I've said, it's in my image folder. Computer is the name and it's a JPEG. I'll size it down. And here you can see the first container, the image, then the second container. Let's get rid of the second for now. And I'll show you how to drag this image into the first container. To be able to do that, there are a couple of things that you just have to know or look up. For example, attributes and inbuilt functions. So just bear with me. You can copy the basic parts or the basic structure of this drag and drop in HTML and then add the details according to your needs. At first, I'll give my image an ID and I call it drag1. So far, you've seen everything in my HTML tutorials, but now we're going to use the draggable attribute and set it to true. So this makes our image a draggable element on our website. And afterwards, we'll define what happens if we actually drag it. So on drag start, we want to use our drag function and trigger a certain event, you could say. The width is not that important. Let me drag it to the right hand side. But this is where we start. Let's take care of our container. We need to also add an attribute. And this one's on drop. And we use the same event that's going to be triggered, but we're going to use a drop function. So the image is our drag element, therefore we need the drag function. and our div container is going to be the drop element. And we also have to add onDragOver, just like we did for the image onDragStart. And here we'll have to allow the drop. And once again, we use our event. Still, we're not there. We now have to go to our head and actually define these functions. So I'm in the head right here, and I use script tags. These allow us to add JavaScript to our website, so this is not going to be shown in the web browser. We'll add our function keyword. Let's take care of allow drop first. So we've used that for div container. And we'll have to prevent the default. So by default, all of these elements have a certain behavior. And in this case, we want to use a drag and drop. Therefore, we'll have to, you could say, block this default behavior by using prevent defaults for our event. We also have drag and drop functions. Let us take care of the drag. We've used that right here for our image. So onDragStart, this function is going to get executed. And we'll define event data transfer, set data. And inside we'll have to use text, and then we'll target it by ID. The text just defines the data type, so we're not going to use text as an ID or anything. It just defines that our data is of type text, and we're going to use the actual ID. So we've set it for our image and for our containers. Now let's take care of the drop. Once again, we'll have to prevent the default first. So for our event, prevent defaults. We've used it right here on drop. Just as a reminder, we'll define a variable called data, set it to event data transfer, and get data. So in the drag, we'll set the data, and in the drop, we will get it. And once again, we use the type text. And finally, we'll need to append child to our target. And we use get element by ID. And this is the data variable that we've created. And now everything works. So let's get back to our body. At first, I want to create some padding for my container so that it's more in center. We maybe use like 20, and I go down with the height of my box. Maybe 175 is better. So I'm just guessing here. You can obviously calculate that if you've got your image size, but I don't want to waste too much time here. Let's go to our second container. I'll place it below the image. Again, we use our ID. This time it's div2, and then we can just copy paste the rest. So we want to use the same attribute. And we'll close our div container afterwards. And this directly works. I haven't yet added a padding to my div2, and it has a different height. So let me fix that. What you can also see is when I drag the image, the spacing between the two containers disappears. Let's just say you don't want to have that. Instead, you want to have your image inside of one of these div containers from the get-go. You can easily use a closing tag right here, let's say for div 1, and then nest your image inside of it from the start. So I'll cut that out and paste it below. I'll let me indent the image. So this is now nested in div 1. This is the starting position. And there you go. You can still drag it back and forth. So this still works. As I've said, don't be confused. Some of this stuff is just given in HTML or in JavaScript in this case. And you just have to know these attributes and these inbuilt functions, these methods. But I hope that I've explained the rest clearly and you were able to recreate this effect on your website. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.